Hi everybody. Sorry I'm late. I'm speaking at a low volume because I just got my kiddo back to sleep. Let me know if you can hear me. Hopefully you can. I have my volume adjusted because I noticed that it was actually particularly loud the last few times that I did a stream. And yeah, I'm excited to be here with you guys. I'm looking to see if you can hear me. It says that I'm live, so hopefully you can. Let me know in the chat if you can. We're going to kind of do a choose your own adventure today, and I'm pretty excited about it. So welcome here. Welcome to Shannon Q. I will get the sappy, ridiculous stuff. Well, it's not ridiculous, but I will get the sappy stuff out of the way. So I'll tell y'all why I decided to do this today. So I, like many of you, most of you probably, am in a state of upheaval right now. I am in quarantine. I wasn't exposed to the virus, but I do have a series of autoimmune disorders. I have multiple sclerosis, I have asthma, I have psoriasis, I have transverse myelitis. So early on, I was kind of set aside. So in order to protect me from the virus, not in order to protect other people from me. So I have been in my house, staring at my four walls, working. Luckily, I'm very luckily, knock on wood, I can work from home, working, and not going anywhere. In the past, like 11, 12 days, the farthest I've gone is to the grocery store, and I ordered it online so that they could put it directly in my trunk, and then came straight back home. So it's just been me and my 9-year-old, chilling out. And I've been thinking about, what I want to do with this channel. And one of the things that I want to do most with this channel is build a sense of positive community. And I've struggled as a content creator over the past little while, thinking, do I just put out regular content? Do I shut it down? What do I do in this situation? And I've thought about it, and I'm gonna start to try to put out a little bit more content than I usually do. I'm gonna work harder to put out more content, and I'm going to stop charging my patrons on Patreon for it. For sure till the end of this month, definitely until the end of April. Oh, is my mic setting really low, or is it too high? I'll turn it back up. Sorry, hopefully you guys can hear me. So let me know if you guys can hear me, or if there's two of me or an echo or something. Hopefully it's okay. So I know that a lot of us, and I'll get past this soon, and then we're gonna have some fun, and I'll get to the point, I promise. If you're new here, it takes me a minute to get to the point because I never shut up, but I will get to the point. So I'm gonna stop charging my patrons because I'm okay. I don't want anybody to have to suffer or feel like they're torn, and I know that there's people suffering. And I also know that a lot of us are, we're cooped up. We're cooped up inside. And now is the time more than ever for the communities that we've cultivated to kind of activate and support each other. And that's what I want to do. So I'm usually more scripted and there's more of a direction, but I wanted to give all of us a chance to kind of come together, to interact with me, to interact with each other, and to have something to do while we're cooped up at home, something intellectually engaging, emotionally engaging. So that's why we're here. That's why we're here today. And hopefully you guys enjoy it. It's going to be interactive. So I've got a little bit planned. I did this very, very last minute, so I may get better. If history serves as any indication, I may not, but I will do my best to get better if I do more of these sorts of things. But just to let you know, I do have some more stuff planned. So I've got I believe Alex from Cosmic Skeptic is going to come here and talk to me about morals and veganism on Sunday. We haven't hammered out a time yet, but that looks like the time that we're going to be doing it. I've got Daryl Ray from the Secular Therapy Project, who's going to be here on Monday. It looks like I've got Dave Warnick, he's great, Living Out Loud. If you don't know who he is, you should look him up. He's going to be here on Wednesday. So I'm just going to kind of keep pumping out content. I'm also working on a video. So that's the sappy update stuff out of the way. Oh, and I have a super chat. Shannon, I'm with you. My mental health has tanked with all of this, and it's driving me nuts having not a lot of freedom with everything going on. I get it. Believe me, I get it. I'm an inherently social person. I'm usually my schedule is regimented to the hilts. I coach my kids' soccer team. I play soccer. I run a baseball league. I work full time. I have this YouTube channel. I have an active social life. I miss humans. I miss human people. I don't know what happens in civilization anymore. It's crazy. So, So hopefully we can all support each other through this, and I can contribute to at least, giving you something to entertain yourself during this time. So that's what I want to do. And so here's in the safety of your home, please stay home for now, please. I know it's hard. God, I know it's hard, but please stay home. And let's get to the fun stuff. Let's have some fun. All right. We got the sappy Shannon stuff out of the way. We'll have some fun now. So you may notice over here, I purposefully picked this pause screen just to annoy poor Braxton. It's actually at the point that I want to have a discussion about, but I picked this pause screen on purpose. Here, I'll return the favor, Braxton. There, you can use that. I'll have this. There, you can use that. You can use that as a pause screen if you want. I return the favor because I'm a jerk. That's why I did that. So there's a couple of things that I'm interested in talking about that I actually kind of wanted to engage the community about more than just, on Twitter, because Twitter's a dystopian wasteland cesspool that you can't fully articulate your thoughts on. So, and there's been some stuff swirling around in the community. So I have two things, and I'm going to let you guys choose which I cover first. Thing one is Paul and I, Paulogia, did a stream a couple days ago when he was here. He's back home in Calgary now, where we were going over the Matt Delahunty and David Wood debate. And today Braxton did a response to that. So this is Braxton's response. And there's a specific point in the response where he goes over the Milgram experiment that I actually like Braxton. I said he was mean to me in the description, but I do like him. And I think now more than ever is when we should recognize the humanity in each other and maybe, ease up a little bit on the vitriol with these sorts of things. So I actually like Braxton, so don't be mean to Braxton. So I was going to maybe go over some of the things that I think that he may have misunderstood me regarding the Milgram experiment when Paul and I were talking in that stream. The second thing, this is where choice is going to come in for you guys, because one of them is going to be maybe interesting and intellectually engaging and, a bit about theology and morality. And the other is this interview with John Richards with Narvardia and what's going on with the Anti Theism International Convention. That one will be interesting if I decide to talk about, if you guys decide I should start with that. I'd like to cover them both, but I don't ever shut the hell up. So there's a solid chance that I may only get to one. I mean, I can come back and do another one later. We can do a choose your own adventure stream once a week. But this is a mess. If you're not familiar with it, it's a mess. I interviewed John Richards on my channel a few months ago, and things have escalated. Situations have gone downhill. There's a lot to talk about there. So what I'm going to do now, and there's a bit of a lag, is I'm going to ask you if you want me to talk about Braxton's stream first, knowing I may not get to the other one, put a 1 in the chat. If you want me to talk about the Anti Theism International Convention and John Richards' interview and put a 2 in the chat, and I will see, complain, Mr. Bear, complain. Yeah, I'm actually it's paused on almost that spot. Mr. Bear's seen it. And I will do my best to be interactive with you guys. I have the chat up on the side. You guys know that I'm not the best, but I will do my best this time. Oh, I have another super chat. Oh, Ricardo, thank you. Done. Ricardo's very sweet. He didn't super chat the other day, and he said he would make it up to me, and you didn't need to. Everybody's tight at this point in time. What's important to me is that we all hang together. So I have a 1 and a 2. Oh gosh. Okay, so a lot of ones. Oh, hey, T Jump's in the chat. Hi, T Jump. 2, 2, 1, 2. Oh gosh, it's so even. Oh, I thought it was gonna be a blowout. I thought it was gonna be a blowout. Okay. Oh wow. It's pretty heavy on 2 right now. It's pretty heavy on 2. Sygart, dang it, why not 1? All right. I may not even keep this stream up. Okay, so it's looking pretty heavy 2 right now, Melissa. All right, so 2 is John Richards' interview with Novardia. Yeah, okay. All right, yeah, I don't get it. We'll do 2. I'll do 2. I'll start with 2. And hopefully I will get to 1. So, let's talk about the Anti Theism International Convention. Let's take a drink. Everybody take a drink. This is a mess. Let's all hang out. We're going to gossip now. I'm usually not very candid, but I'm probably going to be more candid than I generally am. So I'll give you a brief history for anybody who is unfamiliar. So the Anti Theism International Convention is a convention that was going to take place in England on April, I think it was 4th, but it's been postponed to September. They had a myriad of speakers lined up, including Aaron Ra and Cosmic Skeptic and a ton of speakers. I can't remember them all off the top of my head. Lance Gregorchuk, who's one of the organizers, along with John Richards here, who is the other organizer. He's the one you can see on this screen here with my friend Novardia, who everybody should go subscribe to Novardia. She's great. So John Richards is the other organizer. Lance Gregorchuk went on my friend Dave Worley's channel just for a regular interview, and it went sideways. One of the speakers that was going to be at the event, or is still actually, I think, going to be at the event that's now postponed, is, oh my gosh, why can't I remember his name? Wow. Holy smoke. Lawrence Krauss is Lawrence Krauss. And as everybody knows, Lawrence Krauss has sexual assault allegations against him. So Dave asked Lance, given the allegations, do you think it's, prudent to platform Lawrence Krauss? And Lance went into a ridiculous tirade that was awful and very, very not only unsensitive, but dangerously dismissive of accusations of sexual misconduct. The conference itself at that point in time did not have a safeguarding policy. It didn't have a code of conduct. Now, the speakers had already been invited, so what that tells me is that the code of conduct didn't exist before they invited speakers, which means that there's no way they could have given a code of conduct to the speakers such as Lawrence Krauss and others, because the code of conduct wasn't in existence before they were invited. So the speakers came without any stipulations attached to them when they were joined. I did a stream on it afterwards to discuss my concerns. I'm not going to go into it. That stream, I don't know, I may link it. I probably won't. I'll probably go to bed and forget about it. But there's a stream on my channel where I talk about the Anti Theism International Convention. And then I interviewed John. John said that he had dismissed Lance in that interview. This is John here in the top. And that he was no longer involved in the convention, but he couldn't answer questions regarding whether or not Lance himself was still funding the convention. And Lance had been very open about the fact that he was funding this convention. Was quite proud of that, as a matter of fact. So he wouldn't distance himself from that. He wouldn't just give a straight no answer. He just said that he couldn't stipulate on who it was that was contributing to the financials for the convention. Now, at this point, there'd been a couple videos done on it. My friend Rachel Oates, who, I've got to give props to Rachel, because when she found out about it, the next morning, she had already formulated her thoughts, scripted it, edited a video, and put it out and it was great. Like, it was very well thought out. Like, Rachel did a great job of covering it. So, word was getting around, essentially, like, this is a deal. RN had already pulled out of the convention at that point, as I believe another speaker had, but I can't remember her name right now. So anyway, that was the state it was in when John was coming here. Lance had said some pretty reprehensible things that were not only dismissive of sexual assault, but indicative of the fact that he not only wouldn't take them seriously, but potentially had crossed some lines in the past that he didn't see as a big deal. I can't say he did, but it was indicative of that, the way that he was speaking. So when John came on and spoke to me, he wouldn't answer direct questions about whether or not Lance was involved with the conference or not at all. He essentially said that he's still welcome, but he no longer has a title. So essentially, Lance doesn't have the title that he has anymore, but is still funding the event and able to attend the event, but no longer has a title. And that's just supposed to be okay. And the safeguarding policy was being put in place. Now, the safeguarding policy was put in place, and it's a pretty good safeguarding policy. But this is a big but. There's a lot to cover here, so it's going to be difficult for me to do it all in real time. Navardia did a good job. I'd suggest you watch her interview as well, and you can see the title of it on the screen in her channel. But the safeguarding policy seemed as though it was kind of an afterthought. Like, we're catching pressure, so we're going to need to put one in place. Which is fine. Like, they were doing the right thing. So, good, you're doing the right thing. However, lots of however. Drink every time I say however, because there's a lot of however here, because this story goes bananas. And it's not that I even think that they have nefarious intent. It's just that they were so negligent in the manner in which they spoke to and engaged the public on legitimate concerns, and not just negligent, but just sometimes obtuse, and at other times just outright like trite with people. Like, they were like, John, as you'll see once I start to play the video, was at times just like really, really, really rude, and he's communicating representing this conference. So anyway, in summary, Lance did some horrible things on the Dave Worley stream. Rachel covered it in a video. I covered it in a video. I interviewed John. When I interviewed John, he was evasive in some of the questions. And at the end of the stream, a stream that was ostensibly about how seriously he takes misogyny and how he doesn't want misogyny at his convention, and that he takes these types of allegations seriously, he, at the very end of the stream, which was just before Christmas, asked me if I was going to be in the kitchen. And I'm not sure, I've never been in a situation like that before, where somebody was, and I don't even think that he conscientiously meant it to be misogynistic, but it clearly was. It clearly was. Like, you just went on a diatribe for over an hour about how you take women seriously and see them as equals, and that you take, you don't tolerate misogyny, and you end that stream by saying, "What are you up to at Christmas? I was going to ask you if you're going to be in the kitchen," to your female host. It blew my mind. It blew my mind. It didn't seem like there was any self-awareness there. And if you haven't seen the interview, there's a lot to go over. I would suggest you do it. It's an entire saga that's worth following. So things kind of settled for a little while. People were, focusing on other things, kind of like they'd put up their safeguarding policy, despite the sort of, misogynistic things. It seems like they were going on the right track. Then they had a public nomination open so that anybody in the community could nominate atheists, atheist YouTubers, atheist podcasters, atheist activists for various awards, because this Anti Theism International Convention is an award ceremony. Now, one of the people who was nominated for a couple of awards, including Atheist of the Year, was David Silverman. Now, they don't do the nominations, right? So they're not themselves the ones nominating people. The public nominates people, but they have stewardship over whether or not those nominations go through. Now, we know this because David Worley, who had the initial podcast with Lance, had essentially spearheaded a campaign to get himself nominated for one of the awards, which is actually kind of a clever campaign. And he received an email from John over here saying that John would not be willing to accept his nomination for one of the awards unless Dave let John on his podcast so that he could, defend his convention. So that tells me that John has some ability to determine who is and is not nominated for an award. Now, David Silverman, I wouldn't have nominated him, especially for a convention, especially for a convention that has an air around it that, there's concerns about misogyny and sexual misconduct not being taken seriously. Now, from a PR perspective, even, just pragmatically, from a PR perspective, would you put through an award for Atheist of the Year right now, current day, current year, for David Silverman, if you have stewardship over these awards, knowing that there's multiple sexual misconduct allegations against him, and he's just recently not lost another job because of those sexual misconduct allegations, and knowing that he's nominated for Atheist Author of the Year, and he hasn't written a book since 2015. Now, before we get into this, I've given a brief summary, so I'm gonna say what it seems like. This is what it seems like to somebody like me. Now, I'm not any one of them. I'm not David Silverman. I'm not John. I'm not Lance. I'm not anybody that's affiliated with the convention. But when you have a convention where one of the organizers who is funding the event goes on a stream, when you're already platforming somebody with sexual misconduct allegations against them, and acts reprehensibly on that stream in regards to sexual misconduct, speaks about it in an incredibly flippant and dismissive way, and it is just vulgar and rude, and it was bad. It was bad. I'd suggest watching David's stream. It was bad. Bad enough that you actually feel as though you have to strip him of his title. You go on a stream and don't have a code of conduct policy ready up until the point that stream starts, the stream that John had with me, because you didn't have one to begin with, which means that you've platformed somebody who has misconduct allegations. One of your organizers has acted as though it's not something to be taken seriously. You speak to somebody that's a female, and it was very rude to Rachel as well. John put out a video towards Rachel where he spoke to her like she was a small child. Ask me if I'm going to be in the kitchen at Christmas at the end of a stream where you're touting that you take misogyny seriously. Didn't have a code of conduct ready before the convention even started, knowing that there's somebody with allegations there. And even if there wasn't somebody with allegations there, it's just something that you should have. I volunteer for Faithless Forum. Faithless Forum is an atheist convention, and one of the reasons that I volunteered for Faithless Forum is that they take these things seriously. Like before we even started the convention last year, we all had a meeting and was like, listen, like here are the rules. If you can't abide by the rules, feel free to like walk out the door. Like you will take everybody seriously. You will respect people's pronouns. You will respect people's personal space. If you are a speaker, you will not fraternize with any of the guests that are there. Like seriously. And when they sent out invitations this year, I got an invitation. Part of that invitation was, this is the code of conduct. If you don't feel as though you can adhere to the code of conduct, do not accept this invitation. So they didn't have one when they were inviting speakers and selling tickets until it was an issue. So flag. Then David Worley is nominated for awards and you don't allow him to be nominated, which tells me that you have stewardship over those awards. David Silverman is nominated for Atheist of the Year after being dismissed from his position. I can't think of what he's done in the community aside from a lawsuit this year. I mean, I can't speak towards his allegations, but you do that and then allow that nomination to go through, but not allow David Worley's nomination to go through. Like it's beyond an optics issue at this point. It's just okay, you must think we're all dumb. You must think that we're all morons. You're essentially cultivating a boys' club and you're going on streams where all of us are just cast away. Our legitimate concerns about safety and taking these things seriously are just, oh, you're just SJWs, and oh, unless somebody is convicted of a crime, then why are you being ridiculous? But there's a cumulative case here that's like, holy smokes, right in your face. Anyway, I'll get to the video. Oh, I've got some super chats. I'm sorry. I talk a lot. But yeah, this is a bit of a mess. Oh, Melissa. Hi, Melissa. I'm only half as good as Ricardo. 2 exclamation point. Oh, and there's one from Navardia, but for whatever reason, I can't see it. Goodness gracious. Why can't I see it? Oh, YouTube. Why have you forsaken me? Oh, thanks for covering this, you beautiful person. That's from Navardia. Oh, no, thank you for covering it. All right, so I don't want to go too deep into this. I invited Rachel Oates on with me last Monday, but the world came to an end and school got canceled and we have a time difference. My school for my son, we have a time difference. She's in England and I'm in Nova Scotia. It was going to be at 6 my time, but I actually ended up having my son here because school was canceled and I share custody with my ex-husband. And I worked during the day, so I had my son. So like things just went like haywire right around the same time with, you know, the universe and the world. So I didn't actually I had to cancel, and I feel bad about that because I really wanted to cover it with her because she's been really involved in this, and I suggest that you check out her coverage as well. But for anybody who's not familiar with John, I'm gonna preface this with this is the Anti Theism International. This is their communications director. This is the guy who's in charge of PR. Okay, all right, let's listen to some stuff. Let me know if you guys can hear it.
But what about David Silverman? He has had several women come out and complain about sexual assault allegations against him.
So why are you mentioning him?
Because you want people to feel safe, and David Silverman has also had expressions of being sexually assaulted.
Is he coming? Are you privy to information that I'm not?
Well, you are giving an award to David Silverman if he's not coming.
I'm not giving an award. Where did you get that idea from?
See, this is where John was able to, because technically David's only nominated for an award right now. The public nominated David for an award. So they let the nomination go through and David's on the website. And I don't know David Silverman, and I don't know a lot of the background about this. So I don't want to cast any aspersions about his guilt or innocence or anything in that regard. But the evasiveness is just unreal. Instead of addressing something that's legitimate, like you're platforming Lawrence Krauss, there's legitimate questions about safety. Turns out you don't have a safeguarding policy. Turns out the guy that you asked the question to was horrible at answering those types of questions and actually made the situation worse. And when when somebody else is nominated who has sexual misconduct allegations that just lost their job because of more sexual misconduct allegations, this is how you treat it. Now, let's just operate under the assumption that, for the sake of argument, just to illustrate my point here about how this is being dealt with by them, which is what is the issue. It's the negligence that's an issue to me, is more than anything. Let's assume David Silverman, Lawrence Krauss, Lance, none of them are a concern. None of them are a concern. The dismissive attitude here about concerns, how it's dealt with, how he conducts these conversations is telling to me. And a bit concerning, because instead of saying, now if I was, let's say, the PR agent for this conference, after the Lance interview, I would have said, listen, he is still funding the convention because it sounds like he is. We already have that investment. We can't refund it to him. We've put the safeguarding policy in place. We apologize that we didn't have it in place ahead of time. This is our first time organizing a convention. It's something that is important to us. We actually appreciate that this situation brought it to our attention. We want you to know how seriously we take it. We want feedback from you regarding what we can do better so that we don't encounter something like this in the future. Lance has been reprimanded, and going forward, we're going to do our best in order to make sure that we can earn your trust in a situation like this. Like something like that would have ended this, if they meant it, would have ended this almost entirely, because that was the concern. It's like, you're not taking this seriously was the concern. You don't take these things seriously. You talk to, and anytime a woman brings it up to you, you talk down to her like she's a moron for even thinking it's something to be concerned about. Your tone in conversations matter. How you address legitimate concerns matter. You can't just say, I have a safeguarding policy. Listen, bitch, shut up. I don't know what your problem is. We did what you asked us to. Why do you keep bothering me? Which is the message that a lot of us are receiving right now. Like, listen, okay, we did it. Nobody's committed a crime. We're not letting any pedophiles. He'll get to that. We're not letting any pedophiles in there. So why won't you just shut up about it? That's the message a lot of us are receiving right now. Because their communications director, I'm giving him an F in communications. I'm sorry, John, but like F in communication. Hard F. Whatever goes below F, because holy smokes, wait for it. It gets worse.
The winners of the award have not been decided, let alone announced. Okay, you're making stuff up.
Well, you are nominating David Silverman for an award.
I did not nominate. I did not nominate anyone.
Okay, so why is he on your website?
I am just the administrator. The only person in the world who is not allowed to nominate or vote is me.
Okay, I understand that, but he is on the website, and you are the face of this particular convention. So my question is, why is David Silverman being nominated for an award if he is being accused of being sexually assaulting women?
Do you not listen? I have just explained how you...
See how he... Now, maybe I'm dumb. I'm not particularly bright. However, if you are attempting to convey an image that you... It's hard not to laugh because it's so ridiculous. And Narvardia, I'm so sorry for laughing. I'm not laughing because I know that this was hard for you to deal with and you were a champion. I'm laughing because this is borderline ridiculous. Borderline ridiculous. You're looking from a pragmatic sense. Come in here, John. Come in here. Let's talk. Pragmatic sense. You are on a crusade to prove to the world, to women in particular, that you are not, and your conference is not, misogynistic, and you take women seriously, and you see us as equals. And this is going to be a safe place for us to be perceived as the same as anybody else who walks in the door, and that we are trusted, and that if something happens to us, it will be taken seriously and handled accordingly. And when a woman calmly asks you, hey, there's yet another person who has sexual misconduct allegations being nominated for an award. So, can you see why that would be concerning? Like, why are you doing that if you think this is a safe space? Instead of saying, these awards are publicly voted. If he had honestly said, Dave Worley has, caused us some trouble, so we made a decision because we have some public discord with him to not include his nomination. However, David Silverman's nomination was made legitimately by the public, and we have a policy that all of those go through. It's something that we can review, but there's, none of the charges against him have been proven, and we don't want to set a precedent or a standard that this is, that we're going to be judge, jury, and executioner. If he had said something like that in this situation, he may have stood a better chance. But here's what he did instead. He said, "Why don't you listen?" Which translates to, like, are you stupid? I already told you. You must be dumb. Am I crazy? Is it just me? It can't just be me, right? It can't just be me. There's such a pile of foolishness being aggregated that it's difficult to take this seriously. Like, I work in a professional environment. I'm not going to go into where I work. I don't release that. But if somebody was speaking on behalf of my business or was representing my organization in this fashion, in this manner, I would deem that unacceptable. I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine with something so serious, something so important, something that's at the precipice of the pulse of the culture. In a community, and the atheist community hasn't historically been super great at platforming women, accepting women, treating women well, treating people who were in the trans community, in the LGBT community, being accepting and welcoming and looking for a diversity of thought and opinion. When you have somebody being platformed, he has his period, Shannon. No, don't. Melissa. When you have this much accumulating, that's how you speak to somebody, and it just gets worse. Like, he acts like a petulant child. Like, what I'm receiving is that he's just done answering these questions. He's tired of it. It's caused him stress. He doesn't want to deal with it anymore. And can we just get over this? Can we just stop? And all of that contributes to the perception, and I think potentially rightfully so, that this is unprofessional, and that there is legitimate cause for concern because direct questions aren't answered at all. And when direct questions are asked, the people who are asking them are treated as though they're ridiculous. Here, we'll listen to some more. Everybody should go up to her. She did such a good job. She's so patient.
Get nominated. The public nominate you. I have no control over what the public do. I simply follow their directions. If somebody nominates David Silverman, it's my responsibility to put him up as a nominee who can be voted for.
Well, I do know that David Worley has been nominated by the public on several occasions by several people, and yet you have not quite yet put him up as a nominee for the award. So would you be able to respond to that?
Complain to the public, not to me.
So I don't know if you guys picked that up. Not just how he was acting, but one of the things that I picked up was that she started asking her question before he started complain to the public. So he didn't answer her question, and her question was a valid one there because she said, well, David Silverman's nominated. David Worley was nominated. You told David Worley you weren't going to accept his nomination. However, you accepted David Silverman's nomination. So clearly there's some leeway with the nominations you are and are not willing to accept. You've deemed David Silverman acceptable, even though he has written a book since 2015 and he's nominated for Author of the Year, even though he lost his job this year for potential sexual misconduct and was involved in several lawsuits and wasn't really doing, like, I can think, I don't follow David Silverman closely, like I said, but I can think of, other people, maybe a better Atheist of the Year, this year at least, maybe he'll level up. But he didn't answer that question. Instead, he made it seem as though she was just complaining unreasonably. And she was very calm. You're right, like, props. I know how hard it is to stay calm in these situations, especially when you're being spoken to like that. So, yeah, that's the gist of what's going on. We'll listen to a little bit more, and then I'll get to Braxton, which will be a little less, I do still want to have Rachel to come on and cover the whole thing, because there is so much. Like, really, I would encourage you guys to kind of go look into it. I started a playlist on my channel. I think David has one on his that has all of the related videos. Ocean Keltoy also did a solid video. His is well polished. Before this interview took place, Ocean did a video. If you're not subbed to Ocean's channel, you should go check out Ocean. He did a well polished video on all of this. And more people should pay attention to it. Because before I play more, I have so much to say about this, and it's difficult to organize my thoughts in real time. So, I think a lot about communication. All the time. I think about message delivery and message receipt. And what that looks like for people en masse and individually. Now, John here is clearly sending a bad message. He's sending a bad message. And he knows that it's not being received well. He has to know that it's not being received well by people. And I lost my train of thought. I had a valid point. I'll think about it again. I talked myself out of my train of thought. So why do people subscribe to me? Why are you guys here? I'm really sorry. And I haven't even drank the rum. Look, I put this much rum in this glass. Big night for me. All right, so let's play a little bit more, and then maybe my train of thought will come back to me.
I did not nominate him. I have not voted for him. I merely respond to people who nominate and people who vote.
Well, what about David Worley? I know that the public has actually nominated him for an award. But you haven't offered him an opportunity to have an award.
I've not offered anyone an opportunity to have an award. What I have done is provided an award program which starts with people being nominated, and for the life of me at the moment I can't remember whether David Worley was nominated or not.
Okay, so I'll play a little bit more, and then I remembered my point.
And the next stage that happens is nominees are voted for. All of that is done by the public.
Okay, so he's just going to explain how the nomination process works. So tell me if this sounds unreasonable, and then I'll get into what my point was before, if I don't talk myself out of remembering it. I can't prove that David was nominated. I can't. Here's the circumstantial evidence that I have that makes me feel like he was. Multiple people in this chat that you can see on the side said, I nominated him, I nominated him, I nominated him. John had sent an email to David saying, you won't be surprised to hear that I'm not going to accept your nomination until you let me on your channel. And people saying he was nominated, and John sending him an email saying, I'm not going to accept your nomination. That seems to me like I didn't see the emails saying they nominated them. Maybe none of the people that said they nominated him. Maybe 0 of them did. Maybe John emailed him and was saying, just in case anyone nominates you, I'm not going to accept it unless you let me on. In case in the future someone nominates you. Maybe that's true. Maybe that's true. It doesn't seem true. Right? Especially given the tone that he takes, the aggregate of other craziness swirling around this. And here's the tack they seem to take. And this is what's frustrating to me, because there's this tone in culture that there are these reactionary people who take everything as an offense. No matter what you do, they're going to find offense in it. And they're going to try to cancel you for no other reason other than they found offense in it. He seems to be presenting this situation as though that's the case, as though it's entirely unreasonable that anybody would have an issue. People are looking for an issue because they want to attack everything and anything, SJW style, and they're passive victims of that situation. Now that gets traction. It does. And the reason it gets traction is because there's sometimes when it is like I've seen online lynch mobs go after people for just not holding an appropriate position or continuing to affiliate with an inappropriate person or not learning something quickly enough or holding I've seen all of those things. I tend to take a stance personally that I like to give people room to be better and not really cancel people out and try to look at both sides. I try to do that. I'm subject to my own biases. All of us are. I'm a human person and I think things. But what I do to mitigate that, where I have a platform, is I say, hey, advocate for your own understanding. Go look for yourself. Go examine the information. Now, I think you should be leery of anybody who doesn't tell you to examine the information. That being said, let's examine the information. This isn't one of those instances where people are just saying, he's making it seem like people are saying that, it's a big raping convention that he's having and that's what we think it is. And that's not the case. What it seems like, the impression is that is being given off, is that This is a convention where if a woman has a legitimate concern, this is how they'll be treated. That's enough for there to be cause for concern, as far as I can tell. So I think I'll end on that, and well, it's midnight here, but I think I can go a little bit longer since I've drank almost none of my drink. So I will move on to Braxton if you guys want me to. Type a 1 in the chat if you guys want me to move on to Braxton, and I'll read my super chats. Poor Braxton. Look at that pause screen. Bless his heart. It'll be a hard gear shift, though, to move to Braxton. I actually quite like Braxton. Let me know if you think I'm being fair, too. I am trying to be, because it's difficult to traverse this area. Because, especially as a woman, if I say, hey, if I raise my hand and say, hey, like, you're kind of acting like a dick here, and we have cause for concern, then I'm lumped into the group of people who are deemed reactionaries. And there's a bunch of things attributed to me. I'm imbued with a bunch of characteristics as a result of that. I'm represented as though I have some sort of motivation to just, destroy this conference, and that's my motivation. And it's totally not. It's absolutely not. We need community. We need conferences. We need places where we can congregate and share ideas and build community. The more of that we have, the better. And this is not the way to do it. Like, what community are you building here? Who are you attracting? It's not me. Certainly. It's not a lot of people. I mean, Cosmic Skeptic dropped out as well. Like, what community are you cultivating with this demeanor, this approach to legitimate concerns? How do your actions align with your stated intent? How do your words align with your stated goals? How does your demeanor align with what you want your perception to be? Ask yourself those questions. If it was me, I wouldn't like the answers that I got if I really sat down and analyzed them. If I were you. All right, I'm going to move on to Braxton. I have some super chats. Gear shift. All right, so... Oh, hi, Virally Brantley. Hoard medical supplies. Don't listen to the lies. Don't hoard medical supplies, please. I had a very difficult time getting children's Tylenol for my son the other day, so please don't hoard medical supplies. There's people who need them. All right, Jen, hey. Hey, Jen Eldridge. We're here because we love you, even without rum. Thank you. I do have some rum. Amy Bellard. Amy says, I am here because you talk about psychology and atheism and honestly remind me that people can actually be so good. Oh, psych minor and new LGBTQ plus atheist. Welcome. Enjoy the psych minor. Psych is an interesting field. It really is. I wish more people would pursue it. Like, even just, as a pastime, it's intriguing. It helps you gain some perspective on how you think and how others think, and makes you think. All right, so who's ready to talk about Braxton? Oh my gosh, I'm never going to bed. But we're all hanging out, and that's what's important. Solidarity. So Paulogia, like I said, Paulogia and I did a stream where we talked about the Mattel Hunty and David Wood debate. I had way more rum on that stream, and part of that debate, David Wood brought up the Milgram experiment. Now, I'll end up explaining the Milgram experiment in this clip, so I won't go too deep into it. But it seemed to me as though David was presenting the Milgram experiment as though it was evidence that all humans are, inherently evil and need that to be curtailed by something, like if they're left to their own devices. And that's not really what the Milgram experiment showed. I think that's an uncharitable interpretation of the Milgram experiment when you look at it in context. And I don't think Braxton fully understood my point, so it could be that I didn't articulate it well. Not that I'll necessarily do much better this time. And for the record, I do like Braxton. Braxton sent me this video before he posted it. I did tell him before he did that. I think he misunderstood it. I was at work though. He explained to me what he thought my interpretation was, and I didn't have a chance to respond to him because I was working. So, and he's good like that. Like he'll let you know, and he's not, a bad guy. He tries to, while I disagree with his outcomes most of the time, he tries to fairly represent. He does his best to steel man your arguments, but in this instance, I don't think he necessarily did. Vibrantly Brantleys, don't hoard medical supplies. Wink, seriously, don't hoard medical supplies. Please, people need them.
The Milgram experiment, this experiment that we've heard about, and I think she'll explain it. So let's take a listen.
It's really low. So look at me. All right. So I have a lot of things to say about the Milgram experiment. I actually didn't catch this the first time I was listening because I was probably talking through it because I'm not sure if everybody's aware, but I talk a lot. So the Milgram experiment, to explain it to you, it's been a long time since I read up on it, but it's something that I've read up on quite a bit when I was studying psychology. So here's how the experiment operates based on my memory. I didn't get a chance to look it up because I didn't realize beforehand. But so many Shannons. What they did was they had participants in one room and they had somebody doing a task in another. And the participant that was in the room didn't realize that the person that was in the other room operating tasks, like doing tasks, like word matching tasks, and I can't remember, I think that was it. There may have been some others. So the tasks aren't important. What was important was they were supposed to give a light shock to the person, and they were told that they were studying essentially like conditioning that person to be better at the task. So when they failed at a task, they were to give them a shock, and they were to steadily increase the shocks. Now, the actor that was in the other room was told that they didn't feel anything. They actually weren't giving this person shocks. This person was not getting shocks at all. But the person in the other room was supposed to react increasingly distressed and concerned about their well-being. Now, in one group, there were experimenters in the room with them telling the people that were giving the shocks, keep going, it's fine, they're fine. And in another room, the people were allowed to just stop on their own. Now, it was found that the people that had the authority figure, this was actually a study on obedience to authority, which is why I will get into why I don't understand he would use this argument as a good argument for his system. But it showed that people will kind of kick off culpability. They'll kick the can down the road if they can. And a lot of people will do this. You'll see this in observer bias too and bystander bias. I'm getting off track. But the people that were in the room with an authority figure who was saying the person's fine, keep going, the person's fine, keep going, demonstrably went further, even to the point where the person in the other room was saying, I have a heart condition, please stop, I'm going to die, and was showing physiological distress. They would keep going. Now, this wasn't an indicator, like David's presenting it, that people are inherently bad. Because the people that didn't have authority figures convincing them that it was okay didn't go as far. They just, they would be like, this hurts them, I'm going to stop. Like, if they had the opportunity to stop, they would stop. What this was an indicator of was that if somebody has an authority figure telling them to do something, they're more liable to follow that imperative because they've been given a directive from somebody they perceive as being in authority and knowing more than them about the situation. What it also indicated was that people, if they can push off accountability, are more likely, I have another drink, thanks, are more likely to push the boundaries of what they would do if they were accountable to just themselves. So if in the scenario where there was an experimenter in the room, essentially the person's justification was, well, if something happens, it's not my fault. They're telling me to do it. They should know they're in charge here. Where in the other room, they were just accountable to themselves. So any repercussions would fall solely on them. How is that supporting his argument? I don't understand. Because his argument is essentially, this was mandated by an authority figure, this being morality. An authority figure gave this to me, thus I should accept it. He's the person pressing the button in this analogy. And the atheists are the people in the other room that stopped. Doesn't anybody see that? All right, so that was a weird experience, listening to myself explain the Milgram experiment to me. So everybody, I believe that was a fair representation of the Milgram experiment. I'll be honest, I didn't look it up before the stream, and I haven't looked it up since the stream, and I did this one impromptu. But I'm fairly confident that that's it. You know, I have a degree in psychology. It's on the wall, it's right there. And it's, you know, you study Milgram, you study Zimbardo, like the Stanford prison experiments, you know, you look at Piaget, like there's a bunch of things, like a bunch of, you know, seminal studies that you look at. Like you look at Skinner, that are drilled in your head. Like if you get out of a psychology degree and you don't know the Milgram experiments, or who B.F. Skinner is, or who Piaget is, there's a good chance you don't actually have a psychology degree because they're in like intro classes. So I'm pretty sure I represented it well. If I didn't, there could be minutia wrong. Let me know. But I'm pretty sure that's it. So does everybody feel as though they're comfortable with an understanding of the Milgram experiment? Now, I'm going to couch this as letting you know what I was responding to. So David Wood was saying the Milgram experiment is evidence that people are bad. That's what he was using it as evidence for. He was saying, here was my issue, essentially, and why I expounded upon it. He was saying, and if you go look at the Matt Dillahunty David Wood debate, it's not hard to find. It's in the link of the description of that video that Braxton just, this is like Shanception. Like if you go from this video where you just heard me talking to the video where I was actually talking on this channel, and then go in the description of that video, you can see the actual David Wood and Matt Dillahunty debate that I was talking about in the video that I just played on the screen in the Braxton video that's responding to me. Is that clear? Is everybody clear on that? Is everybody? So what David was saying was that essentially that experiment can be utilized as evidence that people have inclinations to being bad. That, you know, if left to our own devices, we're going to be bad. Like, we'll hurt each other. My point was that that's not actually what that experiment shows. That experiment doesn't show that if left to our own devices, we'll hurt each other. What that experiment shows is that if we have the opportunity to shirk off responsibility cognitively, to say, you know, if something happens, it's not going to be my fault. I can mentally defer responsibility so that I don't have dissonance, so that I'm comfortable with it. If I can mentally defer responsibility to another agent, I will. That will increase the threshold for me. If I'm solely responsible for my actions myself, if I'm the one who has all the responsibility on me, my threshold's going to be lower. I'm not going to do as much. I'm more likely to be obedient and do bad things if the responsibility isn't on me. Now it's demonstrating a couple of things about people, and these things are potentially changeable. Awareness helps to change things, which is why these conversations are important. But it shows that, you know, people we're I wanted to say cultivated, but that's not the right word. Our culture helps to cultivate complacency in certain aspects. We're taught to defer to authorities quite a bit. God beliefs are one of the things that do that. They teach us to defer to authorities, and immorality in particular. And that's where my issue was. He was essentially saying this study shows that humans have an inclination towards being crappy unless you stop them. And I was saying, well, that study actually shows that humans have more inclination to being shitty if an authority will allow them to defer responsibility and tell them that and tells them that it's okay. They will override their natural inclination to stop being shitty because they have to be accountable to themselves if they can say, well, it's actually not me. And things like LGBTQIA rights, things like looking at like shunning people. I'm not saying that this is what all Christians do, but these are the things that religions have a stronghold on. They allow you to defer responsibility because you're following an imperative. You're following a directive. You're following a directive from an authority. So you're able to defer that responsibility. That was my point. My point was, it didn't work for David if you understand the context of what that study was actually showing you. It was showing you that if you're able to defer responsibility to an authority that's giving you a prescriptive mandate, you're going to do it, and you're more likely to be crappy because you're following an imperative from a perceived authority. God's a perceived authority who gives us imperatives. Just saying. So let's see what Braxton took from this. It's not the same thing.
Okay. So what's going on here is
What's going on here?
An interpretation of the experiment.
No, that's actually what happened.
And that's fine. Let me offer an interpretation too, Shannon.
Okay.
So
Let's talk Braxton.
So when people are told by an authority figure where they can fluff off their accountability onto the authority figure, they're more willing to go further, right?
Yes.
That still means that everyone that did that is doing something that is inherently bad.
Yeah.
Even if they're doing it just because an authority figure told them to, right? I think we would agree. Because, of course, that was how some Nazis got out of feeling bad about what they had done in the Holocaust, right? I was just following orders. I was just following the orders, right? And maybe you're fine granting that.
That's actually the point, though. I'm not fine. I don't like him saying, maybe you're fine granting that. Because that's like... To me, it seems like he's saying, maybe you're fine that, that they were okay with what they did. Because it doesn't even mean that they were okay with what they did. It means that they were able to somehow cognitively reconcile their actions because they saw themselves as subordinate. Subordination is a dangerous thing. Very dangerous thing. We will avoid consequences. We will protect ourselves. And see, I enjoy talking about this so much more than the anti-theism because that just pisses me off. But this I actually find intriguing because I love talking about morality and psychology and where the two intertwine. So when you say, like, maybe you're okay with that. No, I'm not okay with that. I'm not. But what we need to do is figure out why humans act like this. Why do we behave this way? What circumstances are put in place that elicit these types of things from us? Can we understand why? Can we understand what types of interactions elicit those things? Can we figure out how to counteract them? Those are really important questions. I said later on in the stream, and I mean it, that the question of where do morals come from, who grounds our morals, is of almost no consequence to me, because I see morals as something that we constructed, something that we made, something that we're discovering as we go along and configuring to our understanding of reality and how our behaviors and our actions pertain to desired outcomes in our lives as individuals and as a society and as a community and as a culture, however broadly you want to brush that out. Now, arguing about the minutia of where that comes from is a trivial matter to me. I don't care. If you want to say it comes from God, I just almost don't care. I don't think it does. But when you do say that it does come from God, it gives it a stopping point. Because then you're allowed to insert your prescriptive mandates and say, well, it came from God. He gives me morals. This is one of them. What do you want me to do? I got to find a way to reconcile that. If I have an issue in my heart, as you would put it, as a theist, that's telling me, okay, this doesn't feel right to me. I can assess this emotionally and assess the interactions that I'm having with other people and figure out why I dislike this, why this isn't eliciting a bad response from me, and figure out whether or not me, judging that person or harming that person or engaging with them in a certain fashion, it is or isn't beneficial, then I can incorporate that into the scaffolding of my moral structure as it's being built. I can incorporate that easily based on the reality that I exist in by, analyzing things that inputs in real time and interactions with people in real time. I don't have a prescriptive mandate. I don't have this person is bad because X that I have to reconcile. I don't have that. I don't have this thing is bad because X that I have to figure out how to fit my perceptions within. I'm allowed, given a goal, like whether that goal is well-being or avoiding harm, whatever you want it to be, whatever it is for you, whatever, I'm allowed to utilize that to assess my behaviors. Now, what it seems to me like people like Braxton and David are saying is, well, my prescriptive one is a better system because I believe in God, so obviously it comes from him, so I have to follow his mandates. Sorry, is what it is. We'll figure out a way to reconcile it. We won't be mean or whatever, but there's things that, there's things that are bad and there's things that are good. There's people who are bad, and there's people who are good. We'll sort that out, but what are you going to do? And on top of that, you already know X is good, Y is bad, or you already believe X is good, Y is bad, and now have to do all the work to figure out how your perceptions of reality fit into that predetermination. And I don't think that's beneficial. I think that that's a deleterious system because it's not malleable. It doesn't allow you to take inputs from reality, figure out what your goal is, and assess those inputs against the goal. That's all I'm saying. Milgram experiment. Sorry, I got wordy. Oh, I've got super chats. Sorry, I don't ever shut up, and I'm really sorry. Why is this dude so determined to believe people are inherently awful? Everyone who has ever set out to prove that has utterly failed. I don't know if Braxton is determined to prove that people are awful. I don't think he is. I think he's determined to prove that God exists to anybody who will listen. And he and I get on fine. Like, I don't think, if you press Braxton, even though I'm bisexual, I don't know how he feels about the LGBT community. I think he put a video out about it. I should go give it a watch. I think he would tell you I'm a good person, but but that, God will judge me. And that he wants to give me that message would be my guess. All right. So, Ashley. Hi. Thanks, Ashley. I wonder how the experiment would have fared had the demographics been expanded. Okay, that's really good. That's a really good question because they repeated it elsewhere and I haven't looked into it. And one of the things that was brought up in the live chat today, and this is a valid point, is that given the time frame, it took place in the 60s, there's a pretty solid chance that most of the participants were Christian. Freaking Christians. We're an atheists. There's like a solid demographic chance that just given any smattering of the demographic population in the United States at the time where the study was initially conducted, that most of them were Christian. There's just so like, how does that factor in? I don't know. It's interesting. That's because I don't know how that factors into the argument. Anyway, let's listen to more.
But if the majority of people who had the authority figure still push the button, then the majority of people are still doing something bad, even if there's an authauthority figure there.
Yeah, but the argument is
Now,
never
from
not doing
there,
something bad.
the dichotomy that's being presented between if you had the authoritarian figure, you're more likely to do this horrible thing than if there's no one there and you're just left to yourself. Oh, well, then you wouldn't do that because that's crazy, right? Well, okay. Remember, if you take those people that didn't have the authoritarian figure, what if you gave them the authoritarian figure? Okay, so we still have a problem with people, and that's David's point. We still have a problem with people doing a bad thing. Having the authority figure there and them being able to say it's her fault or it's his fault doesn't mean what they did wasn't bad, just like it didn't mean that for the Nazis. Okay,
so this is where it got hard for me. I don't even know if you understood what I was saying. Because, yeah, like if you took the people that were left to their own devices and gave them an authority figure, and what's crazy is the authority figures just reassured them that it was okay and encouraged them to keep going. There was no threat of punishment for the people. Like, they could leave at any time, and they knew they could leave at any time. There's other issues with the experiment, but anyway, we'll just assume everything about it was perfect for the sake of this argument. But, yeah, like, yes, that's the point. If you insert an authority figure, people who's encouraging people to go forward, people will make a couple of assumptions. They'll assume, okay, you've assessed the situation more than me. You understand more about what's going on than I do because you're the authority here. So I can defer to you because I don't really understand what's going on here. You do. You're the one I need to listen to. People will do that. Is that a good idea? Like, does this experiment prove that maybe skepticism leads you to better behavioral outcomes than deferring to an authority? Like, when he used this experiment, it blew my mind. More psychologists, atheists need to come out of the woodwork because people present these psychological studies and I'm like, what? Did you read it though? Did you look at it? Because yeah, that's the thing, Braxton. Yeah, if people will do bad things. Unless he's just saying that it's evidence that people will do bad things, but just life is evidence that people will do bad things. Everybody does bad things. That's what sin is, right? Like I struggle because I just don't. Maybe I didn't articulate it well initially. Did I articulate it better now? Let me know, chat. I'll read the super chats in a second because I got more. And thank you. You guys really don't have to send me super chats. I just like chit-chatting. It baffles me to this day that anybody would listen to my inane ramblings about how I feel about this stuff. It's utterly baffling to me. So thank you for giving me an outlet in the middle of my empty living room to talk about how I feel about morality. I don't know why you guys like listening to me, but I appreciate it. It's very nice. I would just be, watching other people do this on YouTube. That's what I do with my time. Because I find all this stuff fascinating. It's very, very cool. Okay, so am I making sense? Did I miss something of Braxton's point? Like, hold me to task here. Did I not articulate myself well enough, or am I just completely missing what Braxton had to say about me? I keep pausing him in like the worst possible way. Poor Braxton. Let's see if I can find him a good pause.
Okay.
That's a little better. It's a little better. All right. So, Ashley, the fundamental foundation of Christianity is that people are awful. Oh, I don't think that. You were born in sin and you will forever be, okay, that, yes. You will forever be that without an external savior. Okay, yes, I agree with that. Like, I don't think Christians are bad any more than I think anybody with any belief set is bad inherently. What I do think is that being told that you're broken and that the only way to be okay is to ask somebody to forgive you for existing as you are isn't a good system. I don't see why people think it is, unless people recognize in themselves and others that they're flawed and they see that as an escape somehow. And even then, it really isn't, because you have to constantly re-up. It's never ending. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't see it as a good way to perceive yourself in the world. But it's seen as virtuous. But maybe I'm misunderstanding. I don't know. I like people to be okay. And I watch a lot of people not be okay. Specifically because of that mindset. Anyway. Now I'm going to get all weird. Just sending this to make Shannon feel guilty about not seeing this earlier. Loves you, Shannon. Oh, did you send me one earlier, Navardi? I'm so sorry. I never stop talking. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. Oh, and Learning with Suge, just wanted to support the inane ramblings. Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. And Melissa, you're inspiring me to open my own channel. Yes, please do, Melissa. That's very exciting. We need more voices. All the voices. It takes a diverse group of people to come at these things from a variety of angles, with a variety of approaches, to increase the quality of the discourse surrounding these things. So many people have had a monopoly for so long. And it's just wonderful, utterly wonderful to see so many people cropping up and supporting each other and creating this community of conversation, this, wall of better dialogue, this standard that's being set that, we don't have to hate each other to have conversations about things that are contentious. They're valuable and they're worth having, and we discover lots of things about who we are inherently, about each other, about, how we can coexist better together, what's best for all of us. We're figuring out better ways to just talk to each other instead of at each other. So please, do it. There's your inane rambling, Suge. There it is. Oh, another super chat from Ashley. You guys really need to stop sending me super chats. Last one. What I was saying was that Christianity is founded on the belief that humans are inherently evil. So that's where I think his argument is coming from. Oh, okay. You know what? That's fair. That's totally fair. That's the point that he was probably trying to prove. That we're inherently bad. And if you look at this study, they're doing a bad thing. They're more prone to doing a bad thing if there's an authority there, but they're still doing a bad thing. So we're bad. But they think that the idea that morality is up to us is scary. Like, they're essentially saying that we're evil unless we can be controlled. That's what I hear when, maybe I'm wrong about that. Because that's predicated on the assumption that we're just going to go bonkers. We're going to go crazy. We're going to treat each other horribly. And unless there's some sort of authoritarian mandate to control us that we are forced to adhere to at fear of punishment, like abject, horrifying punishment, things are going to go south. Instead of trying to figure out pragmatic ways to convince each other that our existence is mutually beneficial and we exist better as communities and societies than we do as individuals, we can all benefit each other through our interactions. And what's the best way to do that? That's what morality, I think, is to me, is a system that leads to that goal. If the system is just, we're bad unless there's a really good reason for us not to be, I don't believe, I would rather have faith in humanity than faith in God. Call me crazy. All right, it's 12:37 in Shanlandia, where I live. I really enjoyed rambling into this microphone for the past, I don't know, an hour and a half. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I hope you enjoyed your time. I hope wherever you are, you're happy and you're healthy and you're staying safe and you're building communities where you can lift each other up and help each other. You're supporting the people around you, and if you need it, you're supported. That's what I want for all of us here and for everybody else who's not. Let's recognize the humanity in each other. Let's work together to get through this ridiculous situation we all find ourselves in. Let's continue conversations in the best way we know how. And as always, help elevate the discourse. Bye, guys. This is the end screen that I have to put up for 20 seconds, but I don't have any music yet because I'm not really good at all at doing YouTube. So you get to listen to me talk. I have a Patreon, but I wouldn't sign up for it because I'm not charging anyone until May. So be healthy. Bye, guys.